Imagine for a moment living your dream. You're doing it. You're not trying it. You're not thinking about it. You're actually succeeding at it. And every single day you wake up, it's more of the same. You can't stop smiling. It's surreal. It's unreal. And it's your life. Now imagine how even more amazing that would be if you started out that journey as a First Nations woman in this country with all the barriers and challenges that represents. Welcome to my life. My name is Sandi Boucher, and I am Red Thunderbolt woman of the Loon clan and a proud member of Seine River First Nation. Professionally, I'm a motivational speaker, a published author, and the owner of Traditionally Speaking. And today I'm very proud to be part of the Aboriginal Day portion of Small Business Week. And before I forget, a big thank you to Christina and Ron for inviting me to take part in this amazing event. As mentioned, I am a motivational speaker, published author, and business owner. But long before that, I was a small town northern girl being raised by a beautiful Ojibwe woman from Couchiching First Nation and the Frenchman that was crazy about her. Life wasn't easy for my mom just one generation ago. Mom was raised to hate her brown skin, to be ashamed of the customs and the language of her mom. My grandfather was French, and in line with the times, he didn't believe women needed to be educated. So my mom and her sisters didn't go to school, right until the truant officer showed up at the door. Mom was 14 when that happened, and she was sent to kindergarten. I still remember the discomfort and sadness that would come over her when she would relay that story, when she would tell us how she was taller than her teacher, and how somehow she didn't really fit into the desk. But she persevered, and she stayed until the mandatory 18 years of age, which meant she made it to grade 4. But if you didn't know that story, you would never have guessed. For you see, my mom helped us with our homework. She wrote letters to her sisters. Nowhere was her lack of education obvious. In fact, to my best recollection, at any given time, my mom belonged to no less than 4 book clubs. And every single month, the books arrived. Our living room had 2 full walls filled with shelves from floor to ceiling to hold Mom's books. And we all knew her rule. The book had to be read before it went on the shelf. It wasn't until years after her passing that I put those 2 things together, that this woman with a minimum grade 4 education had read all those books. That's how she had increased her vocabulary and her understanding of her world, all on her own. Now, to any of us with an Ojibwe mom, that kind of perseverance, that determination, that strength isn't uncommon. For most of us, it's actually very common. It is who we are. When we decide a goal is important enough to us that no matter what, we're going to achieve it. That is the kind of perseverance and determination she passed on to me, along with many other teachings that allowed me to personally survive some very dark days. You see, my mom understood empowerment, that sense deep inside yourself that you can do this, even though I'd be willing to bet she never used the word. She understood self-worth. She understood believing in yourself when everybody else is telling you you shouldn't. And she is my example. One of the favorite stories of my mom played out every Sunday as we prepared to go to our little country church. My dad was Catholic and Mom was raised in that faith as well. And she believed it was really important that we had some kind of belief system, a backbone, she would call it. But she couldn't forget who she was. So every Sunday, just before we walked in the door, she would stop us and make us look her right in the eyes, like moms do when they really want their kids to listen to them. And she would say the same thing. When you go inside and the priest starts talking, if you hear something and it makes you go, Wow, yeah. Then you take that and you keep it and you use that. You needed to hear that. But if you hear something that makes the little voice in your head go, what? Leave it here. That wasn't meant for you. God gave you a brain, use it. Do not have blind faith in anything. That was one of my first introductions to my mom's empowerment, because everything she said and everything she did was to teach us, her children, that anytime we had to make a decision or choose a course of action, we knew what we had to do. The answer was inside us. We just had to learn to listen. As a young adult, like every other young mom out there, I would call my mom for advice. Sometimes she would give it, but not until she asked, well, what do you think? Or how did that make you feel? Or what do you think you should do? My mother never lost sight of her goal: to give her children the skills they would need to survive even after she was gone. And as the cycle of life dictates, eventually I had to. I lost my mom in September of 2005, and although I had anticipated the overwhelming grief that would come with that event, what I didn't anticipate was the overwhelming selfishness I felt at her passing. You see, I knew the strength of my mom's teachings. I knew how many people could heal or find their own strength if they could just hear her words. But now they were never going to be able to meet her. I was her daughter, and I knew her teachings as well as my daughter, but somehow that just didn't seem enough. So on that day, the day I assumed the role of matriarch of my family as per our customs, is the day I got serious about honoring my gifts so that I could honor hers. You see, my mother told us that each of us is born with a gift, not for us, but to carry because the world needs it. Time and time again in my seminars, I run into men and women who feel that following their passions would be selfish, that it'd be taking away from their partner or their children or whoever. And I'm always quick to remind them that the selfish act is actually in not following their passion, because the gift wasn't given to them for them. It was given to them because the world needed it. So I ask you to think again about your gifts today. Do you really want to be responsible for preventing what could have been if you had simply shared your gift? I knew my mother's gift. My mother's gift was her teachings, coupled with the fact that when my mother had a conversation with you, the world disappeared. When she looked into your eyes, you were the only one that existed. You were special. You were worthy. And she had a multitude of people that called her friends as a result. And I knew my gift, the gift of the written and spoken word. And on that horrible day, it suddenly makes sense. For the first time, I understood how my gift would assist the world by using my gift to share hers. Honorary Indian, the story of my life that encapsulates my mother's teachings, was released in February of 2010. I have no national distributor. You can only get the book through some great local vendors, through my website, or directly from me. And even though that may seem like monumental barriers to some in the marketing industry, my book has sold across Canada, across the US, and as far away as Ireland and Australia, showing that I was right. The world did need to hear Mom's teachings, and she was right. The answer was inside me. Becoming a motivational speaker, on the other hand, took the wise words of a friend. Here in Thunder Bay, through a natural process, the young mums in our social circle had long been in the habit of coming to me to chat every time they doubted their parenting abilities. They knew I had been a single mom for a long time, and my children were grown, and no matter what they had done or failed to do, I always seemed to be able to find a story of something I had done or failed to do that was even more catastrophic, often with hilarious results. I would share how I took my kids park hopping based on the time-tested bar hopping model. How I announced we were breaking the rules and having breakfast for dinner when it was the day before payday and cereal was the only thing in the cupboards. And how I took the blame for not assisting the Easter Bunny the morning they woke up and there were no treats to be found. It was at the end of one of these conversations, in the midst of some heartfelt laughter, that my girlfriend announced, "Sandy, you know what? You should really be a motivational speaker." Now, to paint a clear picture here, at that time, I was getting close to 20 years in nonprofit management, and I was getting pretty close to the top of the food chain. I wasn't interested in a new career, so I laughed and I thanked her, but she wasn't going to give up that easily. She said, "You don't understand, Sandy. Yes, you make me laugh and you make me feel better, but you always make me believe I can do this. You make me believe in me. And you're really good at that. You need to do this." Now, at the time, I had just moved to Toronto and I hadn't landed a job yet. I was home alone. I really had nothing else to do. So, in true author style, that scared me for a minute. In true author style, I sat down that afternoon and let the inspiration flow in, and I wrote a workshop. Now, when I say I wrote a workshop, I wasn't kidding. I wrote the intro, the intermissions, the icebreakers, the group exercises, even when I would have to pause because they were laughing at my jokes. I wrote out the whole thing. Yes, feel free, laugh, come on. I wrote out the whole thing, and I am proud to say that in March of 2010, I actually got to deliver that very workshop here in Thunder Bay at the Prince Arthur, and I still have women coming up to me all the time, sharing with me how that workshop changed something phenomenal for them. It has gone on to become one of my most powerful seminars and is now being offered across Northwestern Ontario. But as I mentioned, at the time I was living in Toronto when I first entertained this notion of becoming a motivational speaker, and almost as if Creator wanted to reinforce the idea, I suddenly started noticing the people around me, searching, looking, desperate for someone to teach them, someone to follow, desperate for someone who had answers. And time again, I just wanted to yell, "Stop!" Because nowhere was I seeing anyone empower anyone. I saw a whole bunch of speakers preaching dependence. Believe in me and what I say and you'll be happy. Follow my way and you will find contentment. Follow my 5 steps and you will find happiness. It was insanity. As my mother's daughter, and as anyone who has ever been to one of my lectures or seminars knows, if you leave one of my sessions believing in me, then I've failed. But if you leave one of my sessions believing a little bit more in you or your abilities, then I've done my job. I have no idea what you need. I'm not a mind reader, but you do. I have no idea what you desire or what you need for happiness, but you do. My job is to help you find your strengths and your gifts so you will take that one step on the path that is yours and yours alone. Not designed by your boss, your parents, your friends, your neighbors, designed by you. Gifted by God for the world. It takes courage and bravery and strength and resilience to follow your path. But as mentioned earlier, this is the way of the Ojibwe people. This is our nature when we remember how strong we are. And this, coupled with the times we live in, has me very excited for the future. I am 48 years old, and it doesn't take me very much effort at all to remember a time when there were no First Nations business owners, not off the communities anyways. You didn't see beautiful brown skins working at our grocery stores or at our fast foods restaurants. And now these are becoming part of the accomplishments that we see every single day. It was my Ojibwe teachings of community and betterment for all that had me working with a local land developer just over a year ago to take over a much loved but insanely big building and turn it into a business community. The idea was so simplistic that some found it insane, but I knew from my elders that wisdom is often very simplistic. The idea? Hillcrest High School, all 142,000 square feet of it, had approximately 60 classrooms or offices. What if we offered a rent that would convince the entrepreneurs to come out of their living rooms, out of their garages, out of their basements, and into the building, part of a community, into their first real business space? What if they all worked together to fix up their spaces, to promote each other's business, to mentor each other, to advertise for each other? What if they became part of a community and never had to do it alone again? On August 2011, the Thunder Bay Center of Change was born, and our business plan anticipated that it would take 3 years to fill the building. On June 30th of this year, I resigned and passed the reins over to the building manager. My job done. The building was full. Now the center has morphed into its own entity now, just as a teenager changes as it matures. The Hillcrest Center has gone on, still thriving, still surviving, and so too is that much loved building. And the idea that many thought insane, to me, was just one of our teachings brought to life. Partnership, respect, community. These are the seeds to our future for all the colors. But for the First Nations people, it's our nature, our teachings. But sadly, after years of neglect, disrespect, and out abuse, many of my people have made militancy their mode of operation. They demand respect, demand recognition with raised voices and fists, and seriously, that is not our way. And in my humble opinion, that is reactionary, and it will not serve us. It is hard, but we must remember the basic teachings of the medicine wheel. Black, yellow, red, and white are all represented. All the colors of man are represented in this beautiful symbol, and none is greater than any other. We do not have to take away from the white to be strong, because we always were. We just didn't realize. One of my mom's teachings that I hold closest to my heart was her constant reminder that our value was gifted to us on the day we were born. In my workshops, I often ask the participants if any of them are parents. Are any of you parents? Put up your hand. Lots of parents. Awesome. So I always ask them, how valuable is your child? How much is your child worth to you? Everything. I get back a variety of answers that show me that this child is priceless, worth everything. So then I ask, at what age does that stop? Never. So why did it stop for you? If you see, in the wise words of my mother, it never does. But we so often forget that. I suffered through many dark years where I forgot my own mom's teachings, where I placed my value in the hands of another to be determined by another with devastating results. If you hear nothing else today, remember, you are valuable, you are worthy, you are beautiful, you are talented, and most importantly, you always were. I don't care what your neighbor, mother, boss, or supposed friend thinks, because they have no power to determine your value unless you give them that power. In the words of Dennis Merritt Jones, another person's opinion of you is none of your business. It doesn't matter how many guys are calling you or how many women find you attractive. It doesn't matter your dress size or your height. It doesn't matter your education level or expertise. Those are simply conditions. environments, situations. You are valuable, and you carry gifts, and those must be honored. For in line with my teachings, a gift not cherished is soon lost. To illustrate this point, I use an exercise in my workshops that I call the ribbon ceremony. I list off common hardships that we face along life's path: a divorce, the death of a loved one, losing a job, failing a test, and even such stressors as starting a new job, moving to a new city, or starting a new relationship. For each one of these that my participants have experienced, they receive a ribbon, the same kind of ribbons that we got on track and field day in school. And I encourage them to pin the ribbons to their chests. Well, there's very few participants at the end of this exercise that aren't covered in ribbons, and at that point, I ask them to look down. I point out that each and every one of these so-called barriers is actually a mountain they have climbed, a hardship they have overcome, survival skills they have achieved and attained. And I ask them again to tell me that they are not strong in light of all they have survived. The room is always silent. Thank Mom for that teaching. Yes, we are strong, we are resilient, and as First Nations people, we have survived much. It is time to use all we know to celebrate the fact with success. Financial success, personal success, relationship success, and even political success. For nothing saddens me more when my fellow Anishinaabe confuse humility and our culture with poverty. In the words of a dear friend, poverty is simply the environment that we have lived in for far too long, that many still live in today, but because we have been able to find the beauty in humble surroundings does not mean poverty is our culture. We have simply adapted and survived because that's what we do. But it's time to stand up and realize you can live in a comfortable home and be spiritual. You can have a healthy bank account and be humble. And you can be good to those around you and earn a great living. To be successful is not to forget the lessons of the past. I live a beautiful existence now, but it takes me less than a half a second to remember the nights where I was selling furniture for food. The nights of fear and confusion thanks to 10 years of domestic violence. The nights when my teachings were all I had to get me through. And I thank Creator every single day for bringing me to this place of abundance. And I am here today to prove that thanks to our teachings, yeah, we can survive, but we can thrive as well. If there is one thing I learned in my time in Southern Ontario, it's that many envy us. They envy the strength of our belief system. They envy the common teachings that we carry with us every single day. And how's that for a change of pace? They envy us. And I don't mean any disrespect by that. I have learned much from my brothers and sisters of all colors, for I live and breathe the medicine wheel. Share your teachings with me and I will listen. Let me share my teachings with you, and together the world comes together, one partnership, one relationship at a time. It is time to bring the circle together. It is time to stand strong and proud, not loudly, not beating our chests. Confidence isn't loud, arrogance is. But confidence has me standing here before you today saying, I am Mishko Paganankwe, Red Thunderbolt woman of the Loon clan, and I stand here today beside my Italian and Polish and Finn brothers and sisters as a successful businesswoman, an independent and strong woman, and darn straights, I'm Anishinaabe. Join me. Success is our destiny. Success, the Anishinaabe way. In closing, again, I would like to thank Christina and Ron from Fire Dog Communications and the CEDC. Without people like you, it is people like you that support, encourage, and open doors that illustrate the partnerships that my people need and value. So thank you for that. And thank you to everyone here today for taking time out of your busy day to listen to my words. I hope that something I said added a little bit of value to your day. Thank you.